Welcome, everyone, to Balls on the Pitch. My name is Hussein Seif, and with me,
Is Kareem Hosem.
good to see you again, man. It's been, well, it hasn't been actually been that long, to be honest.
It has been
Uh,
that long. I mean, it's been a week. It's been a week.
it has been a week. Actually, that is true. That is true. It's been a week since we recorded our first episode, and I know we had some nerves going into it. You know, we're starting something new,
Yep.
but it was a very fun conversation, and I'm looking forward to this one.
Same here, my man. It was super chill conversation last time. It was
Yeah, I
good.
thought it was good. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
So, this week, we have to begin on the biggest event that has happened um, since we last spoke. Now, people like me who are in my shoes, who, as I mentioned before, have only supported I've only supported Arsenal since 2007. I can only imagine what City, United, and Chelsea fans have been feeling over the last decade plus. I look at them when they win titles, and I'm like, wow. I mean, there must be some great juju, or great mojo flowing through you right now. You feel amazing, I can tell. But I
Yeah.
can only imagine. So that brings me to you, and I have to offer my congratulations because Liverpool, after 30 years, have won the Premier League, or at least the league title. How does it feel?
It look, I will be honest with you. I'm ecstatic. I'm happy that we won the league. Finally, it's first league title that I've seen in my lifetime because
Yeah,
I was born in '92, so like I didn't catch that last league title in 1990.
yeah.
It's been a minute. And I'm just so happy, man. I'm so happy that we finally won it. It's a sense of relief. I will be honest with you though. I felt a little bit underwhelmed by the way we won it because we won it sort of like not being on the pitch.
Yeah, I was gonna that.
Obviously these there it's a little thing like I don't care at this point. We've won the league.
Mm.
We've won it in style. We've won it in the middle of a pandemic
You
and
were the
football being
fastest. Yeah,
we
the fastest.
fastest team to
Yeah,
reach to win it. So like
yeah.
it's a historical season in terms of sort of like numbers, in terms of stats, in terms of just everything. The way we did it this season is just oh, it's incredible, man. It's incredible, and it I think it's even more incredible the fact that we did it in that way after doing what we did last season. So
Yeah.
like getting to 97 points within 1 point of first, um, and then going on to win the Champions League final, and then coming back this season and doing it the way we did, and like being
Mm.
20, I think we're 23 points ahead now.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You just didn't take no for
it's
an answer, basically.
yeah, it's
It
just
was
incredible
crazy.
every game. I mean, the first game that I think I will say the game that I think not convinced me, but sort of gave me hope that we would finally do it this season was that Leicester game around Christmas time.
Okay.
That Leicester game, where was it around? I think it was around Christmas time, where we just absolutely destroyed them. I think it was on their home turf as well,
Mm-hmm.
4-0. That was just such a statement from the team
Yeah.
to like go out and get the win. I think Leicester at that time were second as well, so like
Mm-hmm.
it was sort of like our closest rival at that point in the season, and
Mm-hmm.
we absolutely obliterated them, and it was
Yeah.
beautiful. It was beautiful. That was such a beautiful performance to watch. It was almost on the same level as the performance we had against Crystal Palace before the Chelsea City game.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah,
Which was
I'm just so happy, man. I'm
I can
so
imagine, dude.
happy.
Like, I was very obviously I'm very happy for you guys. I mean, Liverpool is in the top four fandom arena. Liverpool fans are the least annoying. So I've always had more
United fans will
respect.
disagree with that.
Perhaps. Well, I've had more annoying United and Chelsea fans in my life, I guess, than Liverpool fans. But I think there has been a mutual respect between Liverpool and Arsenal fans, and so for that reason, I was very very happy for you guys as well. And I watched the "You'll Never Walk Alone" Jurgen Klopp video, and I actually cried, even though I'm not a Liverpool fan. It was very fucking emotional.
He's an emotional man. He's an emotional.
Yeah.
He I swear to God, I see any piece of content by him, and I'm just like, oh,
Exactly.
I just want you. I just want you
Hug.
to hug
Just
you
want to
all the
hug
time.
him.
I just want to hug you all the time. Like he's such a beautiful person, isn't he?
He is, dude. Yeah, he is. It's a nice man. Like that's the thing that I admired most about him. Like once I got to talking, got to hearing him talk, just how good of a speaker he is, and how intelligent he is on many things, but also just the innate charisma that he has.
Yeah.
And that's obviously why he's such a great manager. Like that's the kind of energy you want to be around. So
Yeah, I mean his like you watch sort of like all like I've watched a ton of stuff that he's in, of course. I mean I watch press conferences, I watch training, I watch what else was I read he did an open letter. He wrote an open letter in the Liverpool Echo. I think it was yesterday or today. Um, and I read it, and he is such a well-spoken person. And he always has the perfect thing to say about everything. Like and you never feel like he excludes anyone. You never feel like he sort of like uh maybe excludes someone that you think should have been mentioned, or doesn't say something right about someone that you think should have been mentioned. He always has the right thing to say about every single person, and it just shows when he says stuff like when he talks about sort of like the cafeteria ladies as if they're family. He talks about Steven Gerrard as if he's still at the club. He talks about Kenny Dalglish as if he's still at the club. And he said basically like, this win is for all of you. This win is for Kenny. This win is for Stevie.
it was
And
very
he goes on and says like why it's for them as well, because they carried the club for so long. And Stevie, for example, carried the club. I think he said like he carried the club on his legs for so many years. This win is for him as well. So it's sort of like he always has an appreciation for the people around him, and I think that's exactly why you're seeing the success that we're all seeing at the club.
and you could say, oh, he's won the title because he's such a brilliant tactical manager, and that's of course true. But I think if you took away the charisma factor, if you took away his personality, then it's unlikely that he achieves the success that he's achieved. It's that's such a big X factor, that it really resulted in him building probably the best team since the Invincibles. Because I think he will end up with one loss. I think you will have one loss on the season, and you'll have almost been at an Invincible side, and you will have been way better than our Invincible side, probably because of the standard of opponent that you're playing now, I imagine. But yeah, like the fact that he is obviously, the way I would put it is he's emotionally, or what's the phrase is, the scientific or the clinical term is interpersonal genius. Like he's an interpersonal master. Like he knows how to deal with people. He knows exactly, he can basically he can look at someone and know how they're feeling and know what they want to hear, and tell them what they need to hear. And he'll probably know what they shouldn't hear as well, or he'll know what not to say, and what, so he's just such a great manager, which is what we kept saying about Fergie as well, and Wenger to some extent, where when you combine the knowledge that he's gained from working in Germany for so long, and I think they play the best football tactically. I think that's probably the most developed and robust the game is in Europe right now. So when you take his background of playing in what is now probably one of the best leagues in the world, and then you couple that with just you're born with that kind of emotional intelligence and interpersonal skill, and you get what you've gotten. And obviously there has to be something to be said about the players that they've gotten as well. So I don't actually know much about Liverpool, so who's in charge of bringing in those players?
Yeah, so basically the people who are behind the scenes of sort of like recruitment and running the day-to-day stuff, we have FSG president Mike Gordon. And for those who don't know, FSG is Fenway Sports Group,
Right.
and they're also the owners of the Boston Red Sox.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
yeah, they came in around 2010, 2011,
Mm-hmm.
right around the time when we almost went into bankruptcy.
Yes, I remember this
We almost
actually.
went into administration
Mm-hmm.
because of the previous owners basically borrowing too much from the banks and not being able to pay it back. So basically, what Fenway Sports Group did was, I think they bought the club for around 300 million sterling
Mm-hmm.
at that time, um, and that included taking on the debt that the previous owners
Yeah.
had accumulated, basically. Um, so they took on a really big job, and they've done so well over the years. I think they took around 5 years to basically sort of like just get to grips with what the game needed and what from a business perspective, basically. They made a few mistakes, obviously.
Yeah.
Like I think they inherited Hodgson,
Mm.
and Hodgson was sort of like a stopgap for them. They didn't keep him around too long. He was there for 6 months before they brought in Kenny Dalglish as a sort of like interim.
Yeah.
Um, Before then going with Brendan Rodgers, obviously. So they've had a sort of like um,
Steady improvement in
yeah,
their performance.
exactly.
Yeah.
Their learning curve has been just basically on the up.
Yeah.
Um, and the people who are behind the sort of like the day-to-day transfers and the goings on at the club currently are Mike Gordon, who is the president of FSG, and you also have Michael Edwards. Now, there is actually a really interesting piece on the Athletic that I still haven't read, but my mother's read and she's recommended it
Okay.
about Michael Edwards. And just his story, like I know a lot of his story, just off of like reading things. He's a very, very elusive character. So like if you try and search anything about Michael Edwards online, you'll get very little things and you'll get very little pictures of what he looks like. Like there are pictures roaming around here and there, but like you'll get very little of um, a visual of him.
Yeah.
He's very behind the scenes. He likes to like stay low, just gets on with his work, and has basically created this monster of a team
Yeah.
along with Mike Gordon and Jurgen Klopp. So it's basically them three together,
Right.
and like it's I've read up on how they work together. It's sort of like they all sit together when it comes to transfers, and they make basically lists that include options A, options B, options C, how much they're going to cost, basically, or in and around a evaluation of how much these players should cost. Um, and Michael Edwards is sort of like the analytical genius
Yeah.
that brings in the data and the numbers to support why these players are on these lists.
Yeah.
Now, Michael Edwards has been, he was an IT teacher. He started off as an IT teacher. And then when, you know, Sports Zone, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So Sports Zone, when that started, or when it started picking up, basically,
Yeah.
the guy who was running it approached Michael Edwards when he was an IT teacher, spoke to him about it, spoke to him about how like it would revolutionize the game, and Edwards was basically on board within a month at Portsmouth. He started off at Portsmouth, then went to with I think he was there with Harry Redknapp, and then he moved on to Tottenham, where he was with Damien Comolli, who was the director of football at Spurs at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Damien Comolli then came to Liverpool in 2010 as director of football,
Mm-hmm.
and brought Edwards with him.
Right. Right. And
So
Edward has
Edwards
lasted
started.
there since 2010.
Yeah. Edwards has been with us. I'm not sure if it's 2010 or if it was like
11.
maybe he came in a little later.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been with us sort of like not at the position that he's at now. But he came in sort of like at a lower level of sort of like analytical stuff, and worked his way up basically.
Mm.
So the work they do together is basically to sort of identify the players that they want to bring in, and then Michael Edwards basically goes through the analysis of why these players are good, why we should get them, why they would work for the team in the system that we play.
Yeah.
So I think all three of them have a really good relationship with each other, and they all sort of like respect one another, and are very transparent with one another about the reasoning of why they would choose this player, about why this player Masan is better than the other player. So I think it's just a harmonious threesome of guys running this football club on a day-to-day basis, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You just see you see the results on the pitch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're gonna have a threesome, you want it to be harmonious. So
exactly right.
So I mean, yeah, that's great. I mean, obviously he must be. They all are obviously very good at their jobs, I would imagine, and including this Michael Edwards guy, who I've only just heard of, and now I have to do a deep dive on because I have to find out how he built a title-winning team, because that's kind of a thing that I want to learn how to do as well. One day. I want to win the Egyptian league, just to get that out of the bat. You know what? I'll just tell you my low-key life ambition is to win the Egyptian league, but not with a team that anyone sees coming. Like just this far out of left field team that no one expects to win the league. Even though the owners want to win the league, but no one takes it seriously, you know, because it's like so far away from the hustle and bustle. And that team is Gooner FC. Okay, so
all right,
I'm calling my shot. This is me calling my shot. I'm gonna move to Hey Gooner, what's up? I'm gonna move to Egypt within 5 years. I'm gonna move back. All right, I'll have a couple experience doing analysis here. I'll have a master's on my belt, and I'm gonna knock on the door of Gooner FC and be like, "Hey, can I have a job, please? I really want to live and work for you. I live in Gooner and work for you. That's my only ambition right now. Like I can't see anything else. Like the only other thing is if something ridiculous happened and I couldn't say no. But what I actually want, like what my heart wants, is to go live in Gooner and work for Gooner FC. So I'll do some Michael Edwards reading, and then basically telegraph and project how Gooner wins the league in 2027.
That's a prediction where you heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
Hussein Seif Nasser is going to be manager of Gooner, and he's going to win the Premier League, the Egyptian Premier League.
I think I'll be. I don't know if I'll be manager. I think I'll be a football director or a tactical analyst, like one of the Michael Edwards role people. That's my aim. Managers, you know, I've learned, and you learned it very quickly, that managers, you know, the Jose Mourinho route is a very hard one, and I might go through that route because, you know, the whole I've never played thing. But you know, managers are generally players, and I think one day I will dip my toe into the management waters. But I'm gonna take my time with that. I'm not gonna do that very soon because I want to have basically. I don't know why I'm telling the whole world my fucking plan, but I want to have basically built like a strong portfolio of being a very sound tactical mind, and someone who can build a team and build a winning squad. And then one day maybe a team can take a chance on me as a manager, and I can try and do that. But my main goal is the Michael Edwards route, and so yeah, I'm gonna have to do some reading on Michael Edwards. On the topic of you guys winning the league. Now, there was a chance, let's say 120 days ago, that the league was going to get cancelled. And in that sense, there was this big argument online on whether or not Liverpool should be awarded a title because they're first, or if the title should be declared null and void and we just have to start over. Now, I'll let you talk about this, but my first and my initial reaction was obviously you're not going to make a null and void because that's just too much pain, and that will create like a mini civil war in England. Okay, so I don't think anyone was seriously taking that option into consideration. I think from the top anyway, because that would have caused fucking havoc.
That's true, but I think it was being considered at a certain point. Very early on, I think it was being seriously considered, because like I don't think a lot of people were seeing sort of like, it wasn't really clear to anyone what the world would be like in 3 months or after 100 days of not playing football and then being able to come back. Like you wouldn't, like at the beginning of it all, you really couldn't see that end. So when the conversation of null and void came up, I was basically very calm. I was just like, you know what? What I was telling people was that I had put my footballing emotions into hibernation. I just put them away. My football emotions, that I wasn't feeling them. I was, you know what? When it comes back, it comes back. We can, like, I'll still follow the news. I'll follow everything, but like, I really like it didn't affect me at all. But like, hypothetically, if it had happened, I think it would have been very unfair.
I agree.
Considering we were 6 points away from actually finishing it up, and the fact that we were 25 points ahead of the second place. So you, like, all of the people who were saying null and void were just saying it out of like they wanted a reaction. They wanted like it was trolling basically. All of the people saying, "Oh, it's gonna be null and void. It's gonna be." You are trolls, my friend. You are trolls. I do not give a shit about you. I don't care what you say. You can spout off as much as you want. My team is 25 points ahead of second place, and we're 6 points away from the league. So even if it was null and void, I don't care if we were gonna like have several years of, oh, you didn't really win it because it's like, oh, fuck you. Like, I do not care.
You know what happened. You know
Exactly.
what was gonna happen.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's very interesting because I think you basically took the approach that I would have taken. Like, I think I would have done the same thing. I would have been like, yeah, you know what? I'll just put my emotions to the side right now and just take a deep breath and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But thankfully, they brought it back. Thankfully, they brought football back. I mean, everyone's thankful. Alhamdulillah, exactly. Well, I want to talk about a few things that have changed since the football's come back.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to talk about is there's no fans in the stadium, and the most interesting thing for me is that now you can hear the players and the manager finally. And the manager specifically is the one that's really interesting, is because I remember like growing up, and it's persisted like until, to this day, there was this kind of mystique about what managers are saying, because you could never fucking hear it. Like, you just be looking at them and they're yelling, and you're like, wow. And you're trying to figure out like, oh, Pep Guardiola, he's such a brilliant manager. I wonder what he's yelling at the top of his lungs. And it's usually something extremely basic, like push or whatever, pressure, or like come here or whatever. Like, they're always like super simple instructions. But when you're a kid or like a fan and you're watching the TV, you think they're being super deep, like on the sideline. but I don't
know. I like. Do you really? I don't like. I've never felt like it was super deep, but like I felt like it was.
It was just a mystery, like what is happening? What are they actually saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. So now that we get to actually hear it, I think that's gonna do a lot of things. Like what it did for the UFC, for example, which came back with no fans, is now you could hear the corners and you could hear the fighters talking. So you can hear the corners giving the fighters pointers or like what to do, and you can hear the fighters trash talk each other, and the fighters can hear the commentators. So like the commentators, there was a fight where the commentator Michael Bisping was literally like, "Watch your head, Dustin," to Dustin Poirier, like last Saturday when he was fighting Dan Hooker, and that was probably a fight of the year for anyone who likes UFC. But what I think in football is going to do the same thing. Like, I think the facade of wondering what the players say and what the manager says is going to go away, and we're going to start to get like a deeper understanding of what happened on the pitch, and that's what I really, really want to happen. That's what I look forward to. I'll be honest, I usually watch games muted because I can't stand commentary, and we can get to commentary next because that's something we want to talk about. But I often watch games muted because I often get annoyed multiple times just because they're talking shit. And I'll tell you one thing. Do you ever have this moment where you listen to a commentator and you hear him say something where like he thinks that a tackle was innocuous, it wasn't bad, and then you watch the replay and you see that it's a bad tackle, but the commentator doesn't want to walk it back? Yeah. Yes. Okay. So that happened it had just happened in Sheffield Arsenal, and it was a Liverpool guy. He was one of the guys who celebrated the Liverpool win. I don't know his name, but it doesn't matter. He did that,
Okay.
And that's one of those things that really always got on my nerves. But so aside from the fact that I'm looking forward to football fans understanding what happens on the game more, well, do you have any thoughts on that before we go on to commentary itself?
I've been watching the football with sort of like the artificial sound, the noise, the crowd noise that they've been putting on the from TV.
It's a bit cringy, to be honest.
Personally, I don't mind it. I think
you don't mind it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't like. I also don't mind sort of like the not having noise. But I've like my roommate, for example. My roommate he can't stand watching the football without the crowd noise.
Really?
So we watch with crowd noise in this household. But I have sort of like watched little clips here and there. I was actually trying to find a clip for you of. Did you see Lukaku in the Inter game recently?
No. What happened there?
Hold on. Let me find it for you because it's so fucking funny. Yeah, here it is. I found it on Twitter. There you go.
All right.
So just like open it up and just like listen, and put your volume up at the like highest level.
Is that Conte saying that?
No, it's Lukaku.
It's Lukaku himself, from the pitch.
Yeah,
Victor,
because he was like waiting for him to like cross the ball to him, and he was wide open. He was gonna like it's basically a tap in for him. So
Amazing.
he's just like Victor. I just love it. I
love that.
See, that's the type of stuff that
I'm missing. We've been missing this shit.
Yeah, exactly. With crowd noise, with everything. Like I love to see that because like that. Some might find it offensive, of course. Some might find it offensive, but at the same time, like it just shows you that passion.
Those people aren't fun who find it offensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Like that's amazing. Like I can't wait to hear like managers be like, get your fucking finger out or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
like I want to hear that passion.
Me too.
I love that passion, man.
Yeah, and I really want to know like what Pep and Arteta are saying when they're like moving their hands from side to side,
Yeah, exactly. Just like
over here, over there, like pass it back and forward.
It's just like what are you trying to say? Give me some noise. Give me some sound.
Yeah, exactly. Let's mic. I think we should move to miking the managers, just like the NFL. Just give us fully mic'd manager games. I would love
referees.
that. Yeah, referees would be really good too, wouldn't it?
Definitely.
But that would never happen. Of all this shit that people talk to them, I'm sure.
I don't think the Premier League is ready for referees to take sort of like accountability for the stuff that they say.
I don't think so either. I really don't.
I think there's some dodgy stuff that goes on between players and referees.
Referees,
I think
they
so. They don't want people hearing.
Yeah, I'm 100% sure that that's the case.
Yeah.
So about commentary, report published in the Guardian, groundbreaking report reveals racial bias in English football commentary. Subtitle: Players with lighter skin more often praised for intelligence, power and pace referenced more often if player has darker skin. Now this is one of those things that has already like made the rounds in a sport like NFL, for example. Like they've addressed this before, like and they've basically had this conversation about how a quarterback, for example, if a quarterback is white, his intelligence will be touted to no end, and it'll be like, oh, this guy's so smart. But if a quarterback is black, it's athleticism. Oh, he's so fast, and you always have the same questions about black quarterbacks where you wouldn't necessarily have them with white quarterbacks. So you don't question a white quarterback's intelligence because that doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
But you question a black quarterback's intelligence, but you don't question a black quarterback's athleticism because they're athletic, so that makes sense. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, well, what's groundbreaking about this exactly? Because if your name isn't, I don't know, Andy Gray or whatever, you know that this has been happening for the last 40, 50, 60, 100 years. I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking for myself here, but I have been...
Keys for that matter.
Right. I have been cringing, looking my head down, looking away, muting commentary on this basis. I think ever since I can remember watching football on a regular basis. What about yourself?
Yeah, for me, I think I enjoy commentary. But I do have favorite commentators, and there are certain commentators that I absolutely tune out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I keep it on, but I tune them out. Like, and I've sort of like sat with people and watched games where they have been where they've said like I don't like what the commentator's saying. Oh, what's he on about? What fucking bullshit is he talking about? What blah 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 blah. What it's so annoying. It's his voice is annoying. His blah blah blah. So there's sort of like several factors to being a good commentator, and I think there are very few good commentators. I mean, two of my favorite, and they usually team up with each other for the Premier League, is Peter Drury and Jim Beglin.
Mm-hmm.
They're just two fantastic commentators. I love them. I love their insights. I love the passion that they show, especially Peter Drury.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Drury is one of the best sort of like really emotional commentators that I've ever
Yeah,
heard in English.
he's really good.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I love Peter Drury and Jim Beglin. They're two of they're probably the best
Yeah.
at what they do. Um, from another perspective, commentators in Arabic,
Mm-hmm.
I cannot stand.
No, yeah. I mean, that's not. That's
I
not.
absolutely cannot stand. And
It's not.
the
It's
issue,
not the same.
it's just it's. And we're going off topic here, but like
We are a little
we'll
bit.
go back.
We'll go
But
back.
like
We'll go back.
let me just get my rant in about Arabic commentators. There are certain I will watch highlights with Arabic commentators because there's such passion in when they describe the goal.
Yeah.
But just
Yes.
please shut up for the rest of the game. Please just take a pause, take
Yeah.
a breath,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and allow yourself some time to
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
think
Exactly.
and let the person watching also
Yeah.
just like take a breather, man, and just like enjoy the football.
Man,
Because
it's
just
insane, right?
yeah, it's absolutely insane. It's just like blah, yada 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 yada, and it's literally non-stop.
It's a rhythm.
Like
It's a rhythm. It's
yeah,
not analysis. It's a rhythm. Yeah.
absolutely. It's like 90 minutes straight of just like talking and
Yeah.
talking and talking and,
Ba-da-da-da,
it's
ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba,
yeah, and it's not
ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
like
Oh!
it's
Shoo
not
hada!
no, but like no, you can't.
That I
you
like.
can't, you,
No, that I
you
like.
can't shit on that guy. You can't
I
shit
love
on
that.
that guy.
I love that You gotta love that
guy,
though.
That goal, man. That goal for that Salah goal against Roma. I
Mhm.
cannot watch highlights of that goal without watching it in Arabic because it's such oof, just
Yeah,
gives
that
me
was the best.
goosebumps every time, man. Because it's a combination of things. It's like a combination of sort of like the occasion, the ball, the sound of the ball hitting the crossbar and going in, and then just him just like going over the top and شنو هذا يا صلاح. It's
Yeah.
just so over the top, and it's like such a like charged
Yeah.
moment. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I like for certain moments it's beautiful.
It is.
But for 90 minutes of the match, it's just like oh, please,
Exhausting.
no,
Just shut up. Yeah, just give me a second. And that is why I often mute commentary, because I would prefer to watch the game with no one else saying anything. I just want to see what's happening, and I love that. I love just
Understandable.
watching it as if it's a computer simulation. I don't care that there are people talking over it. I just want to see what you guys are doing, and I can analyze it myself. I don't need you to tell me what's happening. I can see it.
Understandable.
But on the subject of racial bias,
Yeah.
one of the things that I've always noticed is, and you could tell me if you've noticed this as well, when a black player or a player of color, whether or not they're from the UK,
Yeah.
commits, let's say, a foul or a dive, perhaps, the words that are used to describe them by certain commentators all begin with D. It's either they're disgraceful or they're disgusting, and it's all like this is a despicable human being that you're watching,
Yeah.
and it's about disgust, and
Yeah.
I can feel that the commentator is trying to conjure disgust when talking about this specific person, when if you took the exact same action and applied it to a white player, he'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Or he will say it's a bad challenge, but he won't call him disgusting or despicable or make him subhuman in his narrative.
Yeah.
So while the article obviously talks about intelligence being praised for light skinned players and athleticism being praised for dark skinned players, it doesn't really address this specific point, which is which I've found to be very prevalent, which I think is almost worse, which is you're actively labeling black players with very strong labels that can have an emotional response to the fans that we've already discussed are hyper emotional. So if you have someone like Andy Gray, for example, to pick on the guy because maybe he deserves it a bit, who calls masalan, for argument's sake, let's say Sadio Mane goes into the penalty area and he dives. If he was at, maybe now because he's at Liverpool, they're not using that language anymore. You know what I mean? They're smart about it. But if he's at Southampton and he's doing it, you can hear someone while he's. It is within the realms of possibility, is what I'm saying, that he would have been called, disgusting, for having a dive, because he's black, because he's a small time player still. He's playing at a smaller club than the Big Four, so you're not have as much scrutiny, so you can go after him in this way. So that's basically a pattern that I've noticed. Have you seen this yourself, or am I just noticing something that might be maybe I'm just only the one who's seen it?
No, I think I have noticed it. I've like it's very difficult to notice it, and I think that's why it goes under the radar.
Yes, it's time. It's I've noticed it over 10, 13 years.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen,
exactly.
Because they're smart about it. They don't do it every week, because then you'll just, they space it out. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to say it's intentional. I don't want to say it's they do it on purpose. I think it's an internalized thing of just how they were brought up, the media they're surrounded by, it has made a lot of people sort of like completely blind to the fact that they might be racist. They might be saying something that they shouldn't be saying, and it happens like it's been happening for so long where they like it's been happening so long that it's just gone under the radar. No one takes notice of it, and I think it's a good thing that this Guardian article has come out, because we can finally address it. I think they're like, once you start to address it, you're able to then sort of solve it. A lot of commentators can now sort of like, oh yeah, you know what, I do use that. Like what the conversation should be is the commentators should be sort of looking at themselves and thinking, do I do that or not? And if the answer is yes, the first thing that should come in your mind is, oh well, I can find an alternative word, or I can just stop saying that, or I can criticize in a different way, or criticize equally.
Exactly, the same way. That's the point.
Exactly, I'm going to criticize the same way. So if it shouldn't matter whether a white player dives or a black player dives, or an Asian player dives, or it shouldn't matter. It's at the end of the day, it's a dive, and it shouldn't be in the game.
Yeah.
So whatever race you are, it shouldn't matter whether you do something wrong in the game or not.
Yeah. I'll say what I think actually happens, and you can share your opinion on this too. I think what actually happens is the commentator, either genuinely or by virtue of an excuse, is so impassioned by the game, right? That they are so in it and so passionate about it that they use their excuse, the passion as the excuse for them to use those words, right? It's disgraceful, disgusting.
Yeah.
I can hear Andy Gray saying disgusting because it's like one of his trademarks almost. But that's like he's hiding behind his passion. It's like, I love football and that's disgusting. If you do that and you're playing football, it's disgusting because people who play football shouldn't do that because you should know better because it's football and it's the best game on the planet. Blah blah blah. Fine. However, your passion for football should not have an effect on whether or not you're being racially biased. And what I think happens is, in the heat of that passion, what happens is the same thing that happens in the heat of any moment when someone who is not familiar with a specific race or hasn't seen a specific kind of person before, you get you get emotional about it. Maybe you get even more
Yep.
angry than you were before,
Yep.
and so it comes out. You know,
Yeah.
and I think
I mean,
that's what it is.
it goes back to the point that we were discussing in the first episode about sort of like it's it just breeds hatred, and the more it sort of like goes unnoticed,
Yeah,
the more more people think it's fine. The more people think it's a non-issue. So people like Andy Gray and Richard Keys. I don't want to keep sort of like singling them out, but like it's just the way some of these people go about sort of like analyzing certain players. It's just so obvious that you have a bias against these people.
yeah,
And if
yeah,
if you're able to sort of like hear someone say, listen, you might have this problem, you're talking a certain way, these people need to be open to hearing that. I as a person, I'm not perfect. I might say something that is sexist or racist
yeah,
or but I want people to call me out on it. I want people
yeah,
to come to me and say, yo, listen, dude, that's not right.
yeah,
And then I can say, oh, well, I'm sorry, I didn't see it that way. What about it offended you?
yeah,
And then we can have a conversation about it. So
yeah.
it basically goes back to that point that we were discussing in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And people, and that's why, like, you highlight someone like Peter Drury, who is, a consummate professional, and I think he has that sense of respect that we were talking about, because he
Yeah.
would never do that. I cannot even imagine it. I cannot imagine him disrespecting a player in that way. His commentary is it's very, it's not, it's emotional, it's passionate, but it's not in that way. It's not,
It's
it doesn't
unbiased.
cross the line. Exactly,
It's
exactly.
unbiased to a certain extent, and I think with them, I've heard them sort of like commentate on games, and you will hear sort of like a hesitation in his voice
Mm-hmm.
when there's a foul or when there's something that's gone on in the game where
Yeah.
he can't really see it in that moment. So he hesitates. He doesn't. He
Yes.
doesn't let it out instantly. He doesn't
Exactly.
go like, oh,
Yes.
he just waits for a second, just
Mm-hmm.
has a conversation with whoever's partnering him in the studio or at
Yeah.
the game,
Mm-hmm.
and he waits to see
The
more
resolution.
of what's happened. He waits to see a replay.
Yeah.
He waits to see what the referee is gonna say.
Which is excellent. Which is excellent.
Yeah,
Like, that's exactly what you
exactly.
should be doing.
Yeah,
It's just these like, these sensationalist fucking, wind up merchants who just like to pounce on every, play that's slightly provocative or
Yeah.
controversial, and just call everyone out, and they kind of just want to, be part of that furor, if you will.
Yeah.
And prematurely as well. And that's why I hate it so much when they've done that. And even if it's something super innocuous, and then you see the replay and they won't go back on it. It's like, man, just go back on it. Like,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
would respect you so much more if you just be like, yeah, no, actually, I was wrong. That does look fine.
Yeah.
Or actually, I was wrong. That looks way worse than I thought. He should be sent off. But no. Once there are these commentators who are like living in the Soviet Union, or living in the '60s, where it's like, if I say something once, I better not change my mind because I'll lose my job, or I'll I'll. It's like, just fucking, yeah.
But this is a global thing, by the way. I think this is a universal thing where we're afraid, and it also plays into the point that we made last time about Drew Brees, about sort of like you're afraid to say something, and then you're afraid of the backlash that might cause, so you just shut up.
But they're
Whereas
afraid. Yeah.
you should, like, if you say something and it's wrong, or someone has told you it's wrong, or someone has called you out on it, just accept it, and sit with that feeling of, oh, maybe I am wrong, and
Right.
then you can then backtrack on it and say, oh, it's a learning. Then it's a learning of, I was wrong back then, and now I have a different perspective on it.
Yes.
And it's perfectly fine to do that. And a lot of people around the world just think it's a weird concept, but it's not. There's so much pressure on people to sort of be perfect, to always be tidy and well dressed, and I can't say this and I can't say that and I can't say that. So it's okay to say stuff. It's okay to
Mm-hmm.
say what you're feeling, what's on your mind. What's not okay is basically just saying something without you know, like, even if you don't know it's wrong, but if someone says it's wrong, and you stick with that opinion, you're like, no, you know what, I'm right. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yo, man, I mean, if more and more people are telling you that you're wrong,
They're probably
then
right.
maybe you should listen up a little bit, do a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of research on what you're arguing about, and you'll see that you'll be able to see a little bit more information on it, and it gives you a different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I 100% agree, and
Mm.
hopefully, once in the near future, we can transition to like a society where we're more forgiving of each other's faults and mistakes.
Fingers
Um,
crossed, man. Fingers crossed.
hopefully,
I hope
like we're starting a podcast, right? So we're planning on misspeaking a lot, just by virtue, just by virtue of talking this long. So yeah, like you have to have a kind of, you have to take risk and you have to be
yeah.
willing to say things that you'll regret later on. But that's part of it. Like if I didn't accept that, then I wouldn't even have the courage or the impulse to even start a podcast. I just never would, because I'd be like, I'd always be worried about what I have to say. And
Yeah.
even now it's a risk for me, because I in my head, like I could be like, you know what, like I want to work in football, and I want to be a tactical analyst, and I want to work for big clubs. Oh, but what if 10 years from now, I've said something on this podcast and then they pull it up and my big promotion gets affected.
Exactly.
And it's like, yeah, I've had that conversation in my mind, but I've had to accept that, fuck it, man. Like if I'm gonna have to worry about phantoms that might come to me in the future, then I'm not really living. I'm just
Yeah.
projecting fear and staying still. And
Exactly.
that's where I've been for a couple of years. I've been paralyzed by analysis, and I think it's time to stop doing that. I think it's time to stop overthinking these things, and just take the plunge.
Yeah. I think my way of my way of life so far has been basically go day by day, enjoy the day, and see what it brings. And whatever it brings, learn from it. I mean, if there's a learning experience from something within your day, try and learn from it, and try and
100%.
learn as much as you can throughout your day in general, throughout your life in general. Watch things, listen to things,
Yeah.
read up on things. Whatever you're comfortable with, like in terms of consumption. So for example, I would prefer to watch something than to read something. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, there could be someone who, my mother, for example, loves reading, so she would probably read something rather than watch something. So
Yeah.
it's that type of thing. Whatever makes you comfortable learning, whichever way you're comfortable learning, do that throughout your life, every
Yeah.
day, in
Every day.
whatever situation you're in, and
Yeah.
take lessons from it. Become a better person. I think there's one, and this has done the rounds like over the years, but one of the things that I see on a regular basis whenever shit hits the fan is a post that says, it is your duty to become better than the society you grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Wow.
that is such a powerful message. And one way to do that is to take basically your life as a learning curve, as a learning experience,
Yeah.
for everything. I mean, in terms of racial issues, in terms of harassment issues, in terms of just everything in your life that you could maybe learn about
Yeah.
and get a different perspective about, go ahead and do it. Do it in
Yeah.
whatever way makes you comfortable.
Yeah. And since we're on this topic, I think it's extremely understated the effect that an improvement in one person's life can have. It's we're not we don't exist in a vacuum. We exist in kind of you know um, a community of people, um, and a positive event in one life ripples through the community, and a
Yep.
negative event also ripples through the community. So, and if you multiply that by the world over, we are more connected than we think, simply
Yep.
by virtue of the constant decisions that we're making day by day by day. Um, they have an effect. It's like the butterfly effect or whatever. That's
Yeah.
cringy movie reference. But like, don't underestimate the value of you just improving and being better than you were yesterday. It's not about
Exactly.
conquering everything in a day. You're not going to be an expert on plasma physics if that's what you want in one day. It'll take you a considerable amount of time, and that applies to your health and your attitudes and your
Absolutely.
emotions and your beliefs, and whether or not you're a racist commentator. All these things, they all
Yeah.
they they all they all can be improved upon. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
just you working on yourself, and maybe people will not agree with me because this is an unpopular opinion, just you working on yourself is enough.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Because
Right.
it affects your how you deal with people. It affects
Exactly.
how people see you. How I mean, sort of like, if you work on yourself,
Hmm.
you're able to project a certain energy,
Yeah.
and you get that certain energy back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, like you said, just work on yourself. Your life is a journey of learning. Your life is
Mm.
it's not about today. It's not about tomorrow. It's not about yesterday. It's about the journey. It's about what you learn
Yeah.
over the course of your life. And if you're going to be stuck in your ways at one point in your life, then you're going to struggle. You're obviously going to have people who are disagreeing with you, because certain people, we're not all at the same intersection of our lives.
Yes.
So
100%.
that's basically the gist of it. You need to understand that not all people are at the same intersection of life as you are. So they don't have the
Yeah.
same information, they haven't had the same upbringing, they
Nope.
haven't seen the same things as you. So
No.
they don't have that same perspective on life as you
No.
do.
Only you've
And
watched your movie.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I
I
think
well.
that's it's just a point that everybody needs to like understand.
Yeah. You know what? Like, this was really inspirational, and I hope that Andy Gray was listening.
I mean, I will tell you something. One of the things I've always wanted to do, because we get Andy Gray and Richard Keys on BN Sports
Be in
here in the
sport.
Middle East.
Yeah. There's a reason they're on Be in Sport.
Exactly, exactly. And very few people in the Middle East know this.
Know
They're
this.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
why they're in the Middle East. But like, I'm not gonna say anything. But if you see this, go research why Andy Gray and Richard Keys were
Yeah.
fired from Sky.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna say anything more than that. It's on the internet.
It's
You can search it.
You can find it.
That's it.
Yes.
We're
Great.
not gonna do bad by people.
This was the introspective Improve Your Life segment inspired by Andy Gray and Richard Keys. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.
There's one thing I need to talk about, okay, and
Yeah.
it's very serious. And you know, on that subject that we were just talking about, how you change throughout your life, and how once you could think something, and then so much stuff happens to you, and then all of a sudden you've thought a different way, and maybe that's because you've worked on yourself,
Yeah.
like Andy Gray and Richard Keys are going to do after this episode.
Fingers crossed.
But one of those things,
Guys,
one of those
don't
things
let
that
us
happen.
down.
Don't let us down, guys. One of those things that happened to me is, I've really changed how I feel about Jose Mourinho. Um, and Jose Mourinho is one of these managers that I was bred as an Arsenal fan to despise. I despised this
Yeah.
man, and so I sit now in 2020, feeling very differently and very confused, to be honest, because there was a part of me last summer that wanted him to come to Arsenal, and I was so confused that I felt that way. But I'll tell you how I got there.
Yeah.
Like, the way that I got there was, first I realized that the lens that which I was viewing him, which led to my despising of him, was an unfair Arsenal fan biased lens. So that was one. Secondly, and this really, really helped, is that I actually started to watch the guys. Basically, it's when he left Man United, I started watching him as a pundit and watching him speak.
Yeah.
And I just began to really start respecting him. And even though there was a part of me that was happy he went to Man United because I thought he would fail, he proved me wrong.
Mhm.
Even though everyone thinks he failed,
Even though
didn't he
United
win?
fans will say that, like, he did fail, He didn't fail United.
He didn't fail at all.
He didn't
Like
fail.
he
You failed.
you failed. Yes, exactly. You failed by letting him go and not valuing him when he was there. But you know what my favorite quote was? My favorite quote is, and this was, I think, he was still United manager at this point, I believe, and he said, "When I came to United, I found a sad club. It was a sad club, And I was like, that's so funny. It's so accurate and so funny, and part of me was like, is it the weather? Or is it the club also? It's both. I think it might be both.
Exactly.
But I wanted to ask if you connect with this 180 that I've made in any way, with him or with, obviously not necessarily with him, with anyone else that you've encountered in the past, sports-wise.
I have. And it's exactly the same as you. It's Mourinho.
Oh, is it? Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's not just me then.
No. I mean, I had the only positive image of Mourinho that I had when he first came to the Premier League with Chelsea was the fact that my mother thought he was good looking. She was drooling all over him, and fair enough, man. He's a good looking guy. The man's good looking. Well, I can't deny that. He's a good looking dude.
Yeah.
And he's well spoken. He's charming, and he's so like I get it. I get the the charm offensive that he's got. But he and I think the reason why we've both done this 180. I think after he left United, he was humbled a little bit. So his personality changed after leaving United. He became
Interesting.
I think he became a different person when he left United. He became more humble. He became more down to earth. I think when he stepped away from the game, he got a little bit of a sort of like a
perspective.
Yeah, a different perspective on the game. And we saw that when he was doing the punditry. Yeah. We saw sort of like a different side of Mourinho. We saw a more relaxed Mourinho.
Yeah.
We saw him laughing and joking and giggling and being. I one video that sticks with me is the video of, I think it was Wenger and Mourinho in the studio for the Champions League final where we won. And then just sort of like turning round and being in awe of You'll Never Walk Alone, and the fans singing it at the end of the final whistle. And was it the final whistle, or I might have been the before the match, I think. Right. And they were just in awe of it, and it just showed me that Mourinho he's a human. He's a human being, and I'm sure he's probably felt like he's probably made mistakes in his past in his career. And I think his time at Chelsea, he was a different person. He was more sort of like very is the word brazen? Yeah. Sort of very bold, very sort of like macho,
brash,
egotistic. Kinda. I'm the special one. I don't know what. I don't know this. And you know what? He kind of backed it up. He did back it up.
Yeah, he did.
So I mean, if you're gonna say that, you might as well back it up. So
exactly, There's part of me that thinks that that persona was kind of brewed, if you will, by the English media. Like that's the kind of thing that made me have some perspective after he left Man United as well, because I was like, oh yeah, maybe he, when I think about that press conference when he keeps saying respect, and he's walking away. That to me is like peak Mourinho, like, and
absolutely.
and I think that was probably one of those like moments where he was like, fuck this.
Absolutely.
I've been doing this for too long.
He'd gotten sick of the media. He'd gotten sick of the media, and I think that it was a turning point for him. It was a turning point for him at United, and I think he absolutely despised being I think the pressure of being United manager at that time, and I think he also didn't get a lot of support from the board. So there was sort of like that added pressure as well, because he wasn't getting that support from the board. He was having to answer like very pressuring questions in press conferences, and the British media does not. They're relentless with their questioning. They're like, if they sense that a manager might get a little bit fidgety, at a certain question, they will 100% ask that question because they want that reaction. They want that sort of like fired up reaction. They want that respect, man. Respect. 3 times. They want that because it sells news. It sells
their news.
It gets them clicks. It gets them views. It gets every like basically their bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
I think that's a big issue, and I think that's what like once you see Mourinho outside of sort of like that spotlight of the media, he's such a nice guy.
I just find myself in this really weird place where I'm just looking forward to watching the rest of his career.
Yeah, 100%. I love hearing him talk. I tune into some of his press conferences just to hear him talk, and it's like, I like you, man. I like you.
Yeah. I like his style. صراحة.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's about time we discuss some
games,
form of football.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Tabiola, what do we want to start with?
Shall we start with the Premier League game that won us the Premier League? The City-Chelsea game.
City-Chelsea game, of course.
That was such a good fucking game. I loved it. It was but it was so tense. Like I was sitting here watching it with who was I watching? I was watching it with my 4 best friends. So we're basically a group of 5 guys that chill together, and we were watching it together. And one of them is a Chelsea fan, so that was sort of like a nice dynamic to have, like while we were watching.
Nice.
And it was such a good game. It was so end to end, and they were both like, you could see Chelsea were sort of like trying to play it safe, playing on the counter, sort of like trying to just like suck in the sort of like the pressure of that City were putting on them. And I think they did it so well. They did it very cleverly, in the fact that they sort of like, they didn't allow themselves to just go gung-ho on City. They didn't allow themselves that at all. They were very reserved in the way they played. They held their line. When they saw an opportunity to go and attack, they did. And they were rewarded with that. I think once you leave City to play their game, it's purely about waiting for them to make a sort of mistake that you can pounce on. Yeah. And Benjamin Mendy is fucking prone to those mistakes. So when you play on Benjamin Mendy, I think you can pressure him into making a mistake and therefore getting something out of that City team. And that's exactly what happened. Mendy, I think I'm trying to remember who it was. It was Mendy and someone, I think it was Gundogan. On the halfway line, sort of like getting a mix-up between each other, and like a ball, I think it was coming from a corner as well, from a City corner, and it sort of came out of the area towards the halfway line.
And this is Pulisic.
Pulisic, exactly. And Gundogan and Mendy just sort of like got tangled up in each other and ended up Mendy ended up on his ass, and Gundogan was like running up, or the other way around. I can't remember who it was, but it just shows you that like if you play a certain way against City, you're able to sort of like pounce on those mistakes when they happen. And Pulisic did that brilliantly. It was such a good counter-attack by him. He just went for it.
Yeah. I think teams like City, you can sometimes catch them like in a false sense of security, you know, if you give them the ball. Because they're like, if they have the ball, they're comfortable. But that's how I can catch you out if you're comfortable. You see what I mean?
Exactly.
So I guess that's the perfect game plan, right? It's like kind of the perfect game plan for Arsenal too. And it has been for a long ass fucking time as well. Like, I can't tell you how painful it is seeing lower table teams do it again and again, dude.
You can't play that game that City plays.
I know, but
players to do that.
But we get points for trying.
Sure, I'll give you that.
But like I think it's probably a good tactic for most possession teams. It's, you know, if that's what you want, okay, I'm gonna give you some of that. Yeah. But can you answer my questions when I have the ball? You know. Yeah. And I guess that's what happened. That was what happened in that game. Yeah. But as you said at the top, I guess it was a little
underwhelming
winning a title because someone else lost, as opposed to in a game where you've won.
Yeah.
But on that subject, after tomorrow, to peel back
Yes,
to peel back
after
the
tomorrow.
curtain, or I should say the day it's being released tonight. Liverpool and City are going to be playing. So what's this whole guard of honor situation then? What's that?
So the guard of honor, I love the fact that we're gonna get a guard of honor because this was I had certain hopes for this season. Some of them didn't come true. Some of them have. I will share one of the things that didn't come true. I wanted that gold trophy that you have. I wanted that invincible season. Fuck you, Watford. I wanted it so bad. I wanted that little gold trophy. That was so beautiful. All right, but going back now.
I mean, you're asking for too much there. I think you can take this.
Maybe next season.
Yeah.
But yeah, going like getting back on track. I think the guard of honor is one of the things that I really wanted. I really wanted a guard of honor at the Etihad specifically. Like I wanted us to wrap up the league before that game specifically for the reason of the guard of honor. I want City to like line up and give us the guard of honor that we deserve. Because we would have done the same thing if they had wrapped up the league early last season, but they didn't. They wrapped it up on the end last day of the season, basically.
Yeah.
But I think if you wrap up the league early, it just shows respect to your opponent. You should show respect to your opponents, whether it's you who has won the league, whether it's another team that's won the league. Show that level of respect, and it gives it sort of sets a precedent for the for sort of like kids watching who are sort of like still learning about the game. They learn about that respect. They learn about sort of like the
sportsmanship.
Exactly, the sportsmanship aspect of it. And I'm not about that sportsmanship aspect. That's not what I'm looking for in this. I just want the iconic historical pictures of us walking to a guard of honor at an empty Etihad, which is so fucking ironic. It's beautiful. Like you couldn't write a better script, could you? Like you couldn't, like winning the league by over 20 points gap between you and second place, taking it off City, who won it last season by 1 point, and having them give you a guard of honor at their stadium, which has always been mocked for having no fans. I mean, these pictures are just going to be absolutely iconic for the rest of my life, and I love it.
Amazing.
Like sportsmanship and respect and everything, and yes, of course. But those pictures, I am dying to see those pictures after the game. I am dying.
It sounds like you have like a whole wall planned out. Have you picked the wall yet?
Not a wall, but like
another poster.
That's not a bad idea to have framed. That's not a bad idea to have. I might just do that.
There's a gap. There's a gap just to your right, just above your head to your right.
No. It's too petty. It's too petty. Just wanting it is petty enough. Actually getting it printed and framed and put and hung up, it's too petty. We don't care about City that much.
Okay, good. That's good.
Like I'd rather have it at, like there's I follow a guy called Jimmy on Twitter. He's sort of like, I follow a lot of designers on Twitter. He's a designer and a Liverpool fan. His at is he's at Entire Design, and he did this poster. I think it was, I'm trying to remember which season it was, possibly last season. He did sort of like a really nice poster of sort of like all the players in formation with the bench and Klopp on the at the bottom with sort of like the names of the players and all of that. And it was just a really nice poster to have. But he's doing another one for this season, exactly the same, but sort of like a special edition one because we've won the Premier League, and I am dying to get that one as well.
Nice.
Like I've already got the one from last season, but I'm gonna get this one. This season's one, and that's the one that's gonna get framed because it's gonna look beautiful.
Good. And then we will have that on our set for our viewers to peruse
Yes.
once you have it. Good. Well, what do you think is going to happen tonight? Do you think that Liverpool are going to win the game?
I don't know, man. It's gonna look. It's gonna be such. I feel like it's gonna be such an open game because there's no pressure anymore. There's the league's finished. My only concern is that Pep might put out a weakened team.
What, just to spite you?
Not to spite, but I mean, they're still in the Champions League, so like, and they're also still in the cup. They're still in the FA Cup, so like,
right.
I would understand if he put out a weakened team, but also a weakened City team is not really a weakened City team.
Yeah,
they have so much depth in their team that like it's ridiculous. Like, you're like, if you're playing, like, if he's playing with Mahrez on the right wing, he can take him off and bring fucking Bernardo Silva on. Bernardo Silva is a fucking world-class player.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You've got world-class talent on your bench. So
on your bench. I mean, they basically let's call it like it is. They basically stole all the potential starters in the league and put them on their bench.
Yeah.
It's like really annoying if you think about it.
But like, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to the game. I think it's gonna be a nice open game. I think it's gonna be played in good spirit. I think Pep and Klopp are gonna probably like joke around with each other on the sidelines. Not sure we're gonna see much rotation for the City game, but I think we're gonna see a lot more rotation over the last 6-7 games.
Fair. Yeah, that's probable. Are you guys in any other competitions at this point?
No, we dropped out of everything just purely to win the Premier League.
Good. That was a good decision, to be honest. I mean, it gives you a big leg up, to be honest.
I mean, look, I honestly, one of the things when Klopp first came in, and I think, I can't remember where I read it, but I think one of the things that he said, or one of the things that were outlined when he came in, were the sort of like the priorities of what we need to win. And he set his priorities straight when he came in. He was like, okay, so he said within 4 years of coming in, we will have at least one league title. So
wow, that
just showed me that he, as a manager, understands the most important thing for this fan base is the Premier League, and he's fulfilled that promise. And it's a beautiful thing that he's able to do that. He was able to be given the time to actually come good on that promise. So he's basically gone out and won the two biggest things that we could win in his first 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Now he can focus on the rest. He can focus on the cups. We can get a couple of cups under our belts. Maybe win. Honestly,
or more of these.
Well, yeah, I will tell you. I personally think we're gonna retain the title next season.
Okay, bold prediction.
Yes, very bold prediction. But I do believe that if we get the right sort of like players through the door over the summer and winter windows, I think we could possibly retain the title and maybe get one of the cups, either the FA or the Carabao Cup.
But who cares about them, really? Like, come on.
Yeah, who cares about it? But I'd like Klopp to leave us having won.
That's if you're Liverpool. If you're Arsenal, you care about the FA Cup a lot. Just saying. But,
True. But yeah, I would love for him to sort of like win everything, and like by the end of his time with us, I want him to have won everything, and I want him to have won more than one title, and I want him to have won more than one Champions League, and I think he's gonna do that.
I think so too. I think you have a good potential for that to happen. How much longer do you think he'll be there?
Well, his contract runs until 2024. So we have him for the next 4 years, technically.
I think he'll walk after that, if I'm honest.
I think he might extend for 2 more years because, like, I initially thought that he would leave after 4 years, but there has been talk sort of like here and there, sort of like in the background of who would take over after he leaves. And then there was sort of like a little bit of talk about him wanting to emulate what Ferguson did. And I think
Mm-hmm.
him as a like the his type of personality, the kind of person that he is, I think he would love to do what Ferguson did at United. And he has admitted that it won't be as grand as what Ferguson did, because Ferguson
Yeah.
did an incredible job at just like basically recreating teams, remaking those teams that he had whenever they would get to a certain point of a certain
Stagnation or whatever.
age where they need
Yeah.
refreshing. And he did
Yeah.
that several times. He did that like at least 2 or 3 times during his career with United. I don't think Klopp will have the same opportunity at Liverpool. I think he's not the type of person who likes to stay in one place too long.
Yeah.
Um,
But do you think that he might change his mind because of what just happened? Like,
I
because I've
think
heard
so.
him talk about this, and I've heard him think, and
Yeah.
I've heard him say like, "Oh, it's been 3 or 4 years, and it's already like I'm already like super spent so much energy into this,
Yeah.
and so right now I only see myself doing these next 4 years."
Mm.
But if you saw like the emotion coming out of this man
Yeah.
the night that you guys won the thing,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be surprise me if he's changed his mind completely and he's like, you know what, like I could stay here for another 10 years if I wanted.
Yeah. I mean, and the people would absolutely
Yeah, it's special now it's actually a special
absolutely
relationship,
absolutely. I mean,
100%.
it's it. I will tell you something. It's always been a special relationship. Like the moment he walked through the door, his first press conference was so empowering for the fans. One of the first things that he said was, "Listen, guys, we have to turn from doubters to believers, and right
SNM.
now, like we have to do it right now." And that just resonated with the fans so much because the club was in such dire straits that we like a lot of the fan base were so disillusioned with the club. They were disillusioned with how the club was being run. They were disillusioned with going year after year after year after year of not achieving, of underachieving, of one of the low points of Liverpool is
The slip.
the is the slip. I mean the slip,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
but
harsh, so harsh.
other than the slip, you
Mm.
have Steven Gerrard's last game for Liverpool was a 6-1 fucking defeat to Stoke. That
What?
Yeah,
Really?
his last game for Liverpool was a 6-1 defeat to Stoke, where he was the one who scored the one goal, and it we had seen so much bullshit over the years that hearing a man like Klopp come in from the first moment and say, "Listen, I see you, I see you, I feel you. I know that you're doubting, but I don't want you to doubt. I want you to believe."
Mm.
That just shows that he understands what the job is about. He
Yeah,
understands what the job is going to need in terms of um,
with the fans.
tactics,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
terms of making that link with the fans. He understood instantly. If you get the Liverpool fans on your side, that's it. It's smooth sailing from here on in. You just have to worry about the tactics, getting in the right players, and sort of like all the football stuff that you have been brought in to do. But once you get the fans on board and you create that link between the fans and the players and the coaching staff and the club in general,
yeah,
it there's there's such a beautiful cohesion between
hmm
everyone, literally everyone, from manager to players to coaching staff to fans to the ladies that run the cafeteria to the fitness coaches to the just everyone. Like
yeah.
we to the goalkeep like the goalkeeping coaches as well. You Everyone sort of like gets seen in this
Yes,
team.
yes.
Everyone gets their due appreciation, and I think it's 100% down to Jurgen. I think he breeds that type of culture. He breeds that type of
Yeah,
um, emotion within the team. He breeds that kind of
yeah. Culture is
team
culture
spirit.
is yeah. It's possibly the most important thing.
100%.
At a football club.
And like you said, like going back to that point you made before, if he didn't have the character that he has, I don't think we get where we are today.
Yeah.
Because the way he is, players want to run through a brick wall for you, and that's exactly what you need from a manager. You need a manager who's strong, who the players like feel like, I want to play for you, man, and the fans feel like you're exactly the type of manager I want managing my team.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I couldn't have. I mean, that's quite a hell of a tribute, and I think he's well deserving. On that note, I think we should end.
Yes.
I will say one more time, congratulations. I know it's been a long journey for you.
Thank you.
I can only imagine how delighted you must feel, and how delighted you and your family and the rest of Liverpool must feel. And let's just take let's just appreciate that, and have gratitude for the season that we just had, or that will just about to end.
Absolutely.
And congratulations again.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's been a hell of a season, man. It's been a hell of a season, and then just like I can't wait to see the rest of the games play out. I'm excited to see the race for top 4. That's gonna be a hell of a race there.
Yeah, I mean, for once we're not in it, so I don't have to worry about that. I have to worry about the race for top 8.
I didn't mean to sort of like to like rub it in.
Thanks everyone. This has been Hussein Seif.
Thank you. This has been Kareem Hosem.
We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Bye bye. Woo!